Hi everyone, it's Katrina. From a pizza parlor decoration worth 7 figures to a centuries-old pot that was used to square away some unpaid cab fare, things aren't always as they seem. Here are 8 amazing things found by accident. Number 8. The Janus Cup. As a young boy, John Webber of Dorchester, England, was given a small cup with 2 faces on it by his grandfather, who was a scrap metal dealer. He didn't think to investigate the item's worth. After all, while scrap metal retains some value, it usually won't land someone a fortune, and Webber simply assumed the cup was made out of a material his grandfather typically worked with, such as bronze or brass. Webber stored the item underneath his bed and forgot about it until he was in his 70s as he prepared to move. No KonMari method for him. At that time, he realized that his initial analysis of the cup's material had been mistaken and that it wasn't just some chintzy old dining ware. He sought the advice of the British Museum, but even the experts had never seen anything like it. The 5.5-inch tall vessel featured Janus, the double-headed ancient Roman god of beginnings and doorways. They recommended for Webber to have the metal tested at a laboratory. He took their advice, and when the results came in, he was probably glad he did. The cup was determined to be from the ancient Persian Empire, dating back to sometime between the 3rd and 4th centuries BC, and it was made of pure gold. Having the item tested wasn't cheap, according to Webber, but after it fetched $100,000 at an auction in 2008, I'm sure he would agree it was worth the cost. Number 7. Roman-era Pizzeria decor. In 2007, a wooden stand sitting outside the bathrooms of the North Yorkshire, England branch of the ASK Pizzeria chain caught the eye of a customer who decided to photograph and investigate the item. The giltwood carving featured garlands and naked youths, and while it had gone unnoticed by many, something about it piqued this person's curiosity. The customer sent the picture to Sotheby's furniture expert Mark Tavella, who recognized the item right away. In fact, Tavella had been looking for the missing cabinet base for nearly 2 decades. See, it was destiny. Sometime after World War II, a 17th century Baroque cabinet had somehow become separated from its base. As the years passed, those searching for the missing base began to lose hope that it would ever be recovered. Nobody knows how or why the base and the cabinet ended up in separate places, or how the bottom piece fell into the hands of the pizzeria owners. Fully assembled, the cabinet depicts a crowd in Rome being blessed by the Pope. It's nearly identical to 2 other pieces of furniture located in Denmark, which are believed to have been given as gifts by Pope Clement IX. A European private collector purchased the piece of furniture at Sotheby's for around $1,415,000 in late 2007. Number 6. The Devon Moonstone. In 1950, a family purchased a home in Sussex, England from a Sri Lankan tea farmer. The property contained a semicircular 4-by-8-foot granite stone weighing nearly a ton. On its surface, the stone depicted animals such as cows, horses, lions, elephants, and birds, along with flowers and foliage. From there on out, whenever the family moved, they brought the stone with them. The family was unaware of the stone's value, but found it to be a nice yard decoration. It eventually fell into the possession of Bronwyn Hickmott, the daughter of its original owners, who was 4 years old when her family moved onto the property where they discovered the artifact. By the time she invited Bonham's auctioneer Sam Tuke to take a look at the moss-covered stone, Mrs. Hickmott was grown and married. She and her husband Mike had previously attempted to consult with antiques experts and auction houses, but were repeatedly turned away. The stone was identified as a Sri Lankan moonstone known as Sandakada Pahana and bears a striking resemblance to moonstones from Buddhist temples that were built during Sri Lanka's Anuradhapura era, which lasted from 400 BC to 1000 AD. Archaeologists from Sri Lanka were unable to find records of the stone being removed from the area, despite records of this type having been kept since 1890, and were therefore reluctant to classify the artifact as authentic, although this possibility was not ruled out. If the stone is in fact real, it's one of just 7 known artifacts of its type from the period. While Sinarath Disanyake, the head of Sri Lanka's archaeology department, believes the artifact should be returned to the country if it's deemed authentic, he admitted that it may not be possible to get the stone back due to legislative constraints. Moreover, in a 2013 BBC interview, he explained that until the item's authenticity is verified, there's essentially no point in considering the potential legal obstacles associated with getting it back. Although experts admit that it's highly unusual to find this type of relic outside of Sri Lanka, Bonhams believed the stone was genuine and assessed its value at upwards of $47,500. When it went up for auction, an unexpected bidding war occurred between the 3 in-person bidders and 8 people who made their offers over the phone. After having their belief that the stone was valuable poo-pooed by experts time and time again, as the Hickmots put it, they got the last laugh. It sold for an astounding $800,000, nearly 17 times what it was originally valued at. Number 5. The Sleeping Lady. One day in 2009, Hungarian art historian Gergely Barkey put the children's movie Stuart Little on for his bored daughter Lola. In the background of the movie set, he noticed a painting that he recognized as a Hungarian avant-garde masterpiece that had been missing since 1928. Although he had only seen a faded black and white photograph of the lost painting, Barkey identified it almost immediately as Robert Barany's Sleeping Lady with Black Vase. He later reported that he was so shocked by the sight, he almost dropped Lola out of his lap. Barkey set out on a mission to locate the painting and emailed staff at Sony Pictures and Columbia Pictures. Finally, 2 years later, a set designer who had worked on the film replied, stating that she had spotted the artwork at an antique shop in Pasadena and thought its avant-garde elegance was perfect for the film set. The collector she purchased the painting from had bought it at a charity auction in San Diego in the 1990s for just $40. She paid $500 for it and eventually sold the piece to a private collector. The collector who purchased the painting from the Stuart Little set designer brought it back to Budapest, where it was put up for auction in December 2013 at the Budapest Congress Center, and it was purchased for $285,700. According to Barkey, the painting may have been taken out of Hungary before or during World War II by its then owner, who was possibly Jewish. Number 4. The Petri Pot. Sometime during the 1950s, a man who owed fare money to the English taxi driver Charles Funnell paid him instead with a strange little pot. Attached to the pot was a card identifying the red and black artifact as Libyan pottery, dating back to 3000 BC, that had been discovered sometime between 1894 and 95 by Professor W.M. Flinders Petrie. The curious object was then forgotten about until 2014, when the taxi driver's grandson, Guy Funnell, was clearing out the family's garage. By then, the pot had been broken several times and repaired with superglue. In addition to the information available on the item's description card, Funnell had recently watched a BBC documentary about Petrie, who was responsible for some of the finest discoveries of ancient Egyptian artifacts, and is remembered for the exceptionally thorough records he kept of these items. Funnell contacted the Petrie Museum in London after recognizing the name of the archaeologist on the pot's label. It turns out that the archaeologist had made a mistake regarding the pot's origin. It was not Libyan, but Egyptian. Petrie had caught his error, which was one of the very few he ever made, and had publicly set the record straight. The commercially printed card accompanying the artifact was the only one ever found. It's believed that the indebted taxi passenger who gifted the pot to Petrie may have been a museum curator from Oxford named Joseph Milne. Number 3. Roman Moratorium Turned-Birdbath. In 2006, a resident of Leicester, England named Ray Taylor found a flat clay bowl in his garden while digging for rhubarb and decided to use it as a bird bath. For the next decade or so, that's where it remained. When Taylor's daughter Rebecca visited the Roman Alcester Heritage Museum, she noticed several similar items on display and suggested for her dad to take his makeshift birdbath there to learn more. He took her advice, and the item was identified by Sarah Weir, a curator for the Warwickshire Museum Service, as a Roman moratorium from the 2nd or 3rd century AD. It was used similarly to a modern mortar and pestle to make sauces by grinding various herbs, spices, and other ingredients. Most pottery like this had been broken from everyday use during Roman times and was subsequently thrown away after being unearthed at archaeological sites. Finding such a complete piece was unusual. Taylor could have probably fetched a pretty penny for the 2,000-year-old piece. Instead, however, the 83-year-old pensioner generously donated it to the Warwickshire Museum collections in October 2016. It is now on display at the Roman Alcester Heritage Museum, the very place where his daughter first gained an inkling of the item's historic value. Number 2. The Leicester Stone. When archaeologist and television host James Baum noticed a dirty old garden ornament for sale in Leicester, England, he had an unexplainable yet sneaking suspicion that the item was not just a worthless lawn trinket. He purchased the heavy sandstone block and noticed after cleaning it that it contained complex engravings that may represent a form of writing. To this day, nobody knows for sure what it was used for or what it says or represents. In 2015, Baum stated in an email to Live Science that the object may be a keystone from an archway or a vaulted ceiling. The 18-inch high, 5.5-inch thick stone weighs between 55 and 65 pounds and possesses a wide base, but narrows toward the top. While it has various chisel marks on its sides and back, the stone is only decorated on the front. Although Baum speculates that the carving may date back to the Anglo-Saxon period, which started after the Roman Empire fled Britain in 410 and continued until 1066, when William the Conqueror led the Norman invasion of England, the artifact's exact date of origin remains unknown. Several different groups migrated to England during this period and created complex stone carvings, some of which are still standing. Number 1. The Blenheim sarcophagus. In 2016, an antiques expert noticed a unique flower pot as he strolled through the gardens of Blenheim Palace, the Oxfordshire, England birthplace and ancestral home of Sir Winston Churchill. For over 100 years, the 6-foot 6-inch long ornate marble vessel had been used as a tulip bed, and for a century before that, after being acquired during the 19th century by the 5th Duke of Marlborough, it was used as a makeshift water feature. Palace records do not indicate how the Duke had come to own it. The antiques expert suspected that the item had historic value and urged palace officials to investigate. They summoned the help of conservators who removed the original part of the repurposed flower pot and determined it to be a 1,800-year-old sarcophagus from the Dionysian period. The intricate carvings depict the ancient Roman god of wine, Dionysus, in a rather inebriated state and leaning against an equally drunk woodland god known as a satyr. Also featured on the artwork are 2 large lion heads and other presumably intoxicated party attendees, including Hercules and Ariadne. Nicholas Banfield, who oversaw the restoration of the sarcophagus at Cliveden Conservation, noted that the sarcophagus was in remarkable condition considering it has withstood seemingly aggressive environments. Despite enduring the wear and tear of both time and the elements, it was valued at around $391,000. In 2017, the sarcophagus was placed in an underground public display at Blenheim Palace. Thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for hidden treasures. You never know what might be lost out there. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!